Started thinking today about fear and our relationship with it. And I think what's happened in modern times is that we've been taught to lead from fear. We've been taught that fear is like a leader or a front person or someone or something of value to listen to, perhaps a mentor, and perhaps one of the most important voices that we might hear. When the truth is that fear is not about eliminating fear, it's about understanding what fear is and really putting fear in its proper place and in its proper perspective. Fear is like an early warning sign. Fear is like the bumps in the middle of the road of a highway or along the edge of a highway, letting you know that you're going veering off of the prescribed path. Fear is simply a warning sign. Fear is just an indicator. It's like a gauge or something like that. It's not what causes the gauge to change. It's just the gauge that lets you know, number one, if there is a threat, or perhaps to give you an idea of how you might be perceiving something. And then you have the ability from that point to decide how you might perceive it differently or be able to come from a place of power. So once you understand what fear truly is, perhaps you can start working on a framework to, put fear in its proper place so that fear doesn't start becoming some of its after effects like depression, anxiety, stress. Those are all effects of allowing fear to have the wrong place in our life, wrong place in our attachment, wrong place, in our structure of who and what we listen to and how we guide our lives. And for me, the way to really, I don't want to say combat that, because you're not combating fear, you're simply putting it in its proper place. The way that I work with that is to start coming from a perspective of faith. Faith is the ability to see beyond your physical vision. Faith is I always look at it as though you are stepping out onto a glass bridge with a huge chasm in between, and you can't see any physical support, but you completely expect it to be there. There's an expectation there. And that, faith rather is definitely a muscle. So faith is something, we are born with some of it, but faith is something that you, over time, you exercise. And then you understand that from all of your past experiences, as you've exercised your faith, that there will be a bridge there to catch you. So if you don't have the faith right at the beginning, it's not about kicking yourself. It's about understanding that it's simply a muscle. It's like going to the gym and working out a certain muscle. You may not be able to, lift a certain weight that you might think you should be able to, but if you continue over time, you most likely will be able to with the right nutrition, the right exercise, the right amount of rest. And the same is true for faith as well. If you exercise it, if you use it, if you push yourself just a little bit further and you test it, faith loves to be tested. Fear does not like to be tested. Fear usually completely dissipates once you actually test it. But faith likes to be tested. Faith wants you to test it because faith wants to grow. Faith is very much in favor of seeing you achieve success. And when I mean success, it's just about thriving in whatever way that you might think of that. That doesn't necessarily mean money or anything like that. There's all kinds of success, but faith absolutely wants you to have a successful life, to have a joyful life. And so faith understands that it is a crucial part of how to move forward in life. And you can have faith in all kinds of things. For me, my faith comes from a divine source. Perhaps yours does not, but there's something you could put faith in, whether it's, your own ability or your higher self or the universe, or I don't know, maybe even your dog. I mean, seriously, it's whatever you want to put faith in. Faith is almost like an avatar, you know what I mean? And you could make that avatar of whatever is important and believable to you. You can absolutely put it there. That's why you see so many people coming from so many different perspectives of faith, whether it's faith in a certain religion or faith in a certain teacher or faith in a certain person or whatever it is. And everybody can have the same level of modicum of faith, but it can have different names on it. It can have different definitions to it of what it looks like and where it comes from and what its history is. But faith is, at the same time, faith is just it's an ability to step out of yourself and your own limited human perspective to understand that there is a wider lens, there's a wider view to see everything through, to have and it really is about perspective. It's about having that, 1,000-foot view down rather than being like right in the midst of it. Say that there's a low-hanging fog, around where you are, and you can't see a foot in front of you, but if you perhaps were to lift yourself up 10, 15, 100 feet, you would have a completely different field of vision. You'd have a completely different perspective of what things look like, and that's the idea even of like our satellite tracking systems. It works because it has a much higher, wider lens and view. So put in that perspective, if you're atheist, that's not, a divine or a God thing. That's simply a science thing. So what I'm trying to say is you can approach faith from wherever you are, whatever your personal beliefs are, and that absolutely works. But when you're able to step from a space or look from a place of faith, live from a place of faith, and therefore put fear in its proper perspective, or fear is just a guide, fear is just a sign, fear is just a gauge, rather than being a mentor, you can change your perspective of everything, and you can change your ability to how you show up in the moment. Because when we show up in the moment with fear as our leader, we're very much in our old lizard brain, very much that amygdala. We're very much not in our prefrontal cortex. We're very much not able to use the combination of our left and right brain in order to come up with something, perhaps a new novel approach to how we might solve dilemmas or problems, or maybe even have just even new questions. I mean, not everything is a problem, but the whole, I think, to me, the whole perspective of life is about growth and change and difference. So even if there's nothing going on that's wrong, you can still be able to use your intelligence and your brain to be able to come up with new ideas of how to keep life exciting and new and growth. But if we're in our fear brain, if we're in that base brain, we can't do that at all. It's simply about survival. It's simply about how am I able to breathe in the next second? Not what am I going to do 10 minutes from now? And that fear can also make us rob from essential things because that's the only way, that's the only resource that seems available to be able to, achieve the success of simply surviving. Whether that resource might be something we take from someone else, or, could even be like our own energy levels, or it could even be a substance because we think we need something outside of ourselves to propel us forward or to keep us going. And all of those are things that are a limited supply that we can deplete. But when we move from a space of faith, we can start understanding that there is an unlimited supply that's available to us when we're able to think from that mindset, because we're able to start looking at different resources that we can't even imagine that we might even have. Even just an idea, a new idea is an incredible resource, because a new approach to an old problem, or a new approach to an old dilemma, or a new approach to an old idea opens up a entire universe of possibilities and potentials of what can happen. So to me, it's really about the core of understanding what faith is, what fear is, and how can we start living more from a space of faith? How can we start living more from a stance of faith, understanding what fear is, and then finding a way to create a whole new humanity? If you are, like I am right now, worried and concerned and angry about all the things that are happening, now is absolutely our best opportunity to find those hidden spaces, find things that, perhaps from our own limited scope, perhaps from our own, our own things that we didn't even know that we took for granted. Myself being a cisgender white male, there's things that I didn't even realize were out there that were detrimental to humans as a total. That now I'm really being able to see, oh gosh, the whole time I thought this was going well because it was going well for me. But now I'm understanding that there's so much more that was hidden and now is really coming to light. So now is our opportunity, because for me, everything is a gift. Sometimes the wrapping paper smells like what. But for me, the universe that I live in is a universe where everything is a gift. And sometimes you have to look really hard. But if you can find the gift, then you can learn how to not only survive, but you can learn how to thrive. And for me and mine and for my grandson, I will, as long as I breathe, only find ways to thrive, because I want my grandson to have a beautiful life. And I want your grandchildren to have a beautiful life too. So if you will join with me, and let's see if we can find ways where we can move more through faith and allow fear to be the guide that it is, or sign that it is. And also sometimes we have to just tell fear to go sit in the back room, so that we don't just sit there and listen to it and create more. Because, when we feed the fuel of fear, it will take all the resources that we need for survival, and it will burn and it'll grow bigger and bigger and bigger. But at the end of the day, it will consume our limited supplies and resources, and the limited supplies and resources of anybody that we come in contact with. But faith just grows and grows and grows, no matter what you can find faith in. So I hope you'll find faith with me. Perhaps you'll comment on what you have faith in. Can be whatever is important or relevant for you. There's no wrong answers. Until later, love, peace, and release.